which is the moon. I am normally your Monday host, but today you're seeing me on Tuesday. And I wanted to thank Jen so much for switching out with me yesterday. It was kind of a circus of a day. Issues with the daughter's car. I am going to apologize in advance because I'm outside, as you can see. I needed some sunshine, and today is a gorgeous day here, and so I wanted to take a few minutes outside enjoying the sounds of my birds that live in my trees. But you are going to hear the garbage men who are going to come by, so I'm going to try to just work through that, so bear with me, and I appreciate your patience. So this week we are talking about doing workings for others, and I did watch Jen's video from yesterday, and I think she did a really good job on talking about the history and how it's kind of a time-honored tradition to do workings for others. What I want to talk about a little bit is something that she kind of touched on. She touched on, accepting payment for workings, and how, that's always been a norm, whether it's been either a barter or a trade of some sort or an actual payment of currency of the time. Now, my husband is of the opinion that doing workings for others is immoral because it's charlatanism and you're cheating them of their money, and how dare you do that? But the way I look at it is thus. The person comes to you. You aren't asking the person to take the service from you. They seek you out. So obviously they have a similar faith to you that your working is going to work for them, or that they can gain something from your service. So accepting payment is simply even an equal exchange of energy and value. And I have no problem with accepting payment for that. It's paying for a service. And your time and your energy is worth something. Even if it's just a few minutes of your time, that's worth something. And if you are doing a spell work for them, well, that takes tools. So here comes the garbage bin. I'm going to give it just a second. They're very nice people. We have new garbage people, and they're really cool. So anyway, so what I was saying is that I don't feel that it's charlatanism in any way. They obviously believe that your service is of value to them, so they seek you out. And it's the same for any kind of working that you're doing, because that would include any kind of scrying work, any kind of tarot readings, spellcraft, anything like that. That is a working. So I guess I should have started out with defining what is doing a working for others. So when I do my tarot readings, I have no problem with taking money in exchange for that. So, especially if they want to pay me. A lot of times they want to pay you for your service because they recognize that they're gaining some value from that, even if it's just peace of mind or insight to a situation. So I don't pay any attention to my husband. I just don't even talk to him about it. When somebody pays me, I just put the money away. If he asks where I got the money from, I just tell him, don't ask what you don't want to know. Now, in terms of whether or not spellcrafting for others works, absolutely it can. Here's my issue with doing spell work for other people versus doing a reading or scrying where you're getting some information for that person or offering guidance. Nobody has as much vested interest in the outcome of that spell as they do. So, especially if it's somebody I don't know very well, I much prefer to give them the tools to do the spell themselves, because that also makes them responsible for the outcome of that spell. Because I can't guarantee that my energy is going to be sufficient enough to get the ending that they want, because I can't put as much energy into it as they can. They have a vested interest in making sure that that spell is successful, except in cases where it affects you personally. And I'm going to give you an example. My husband has had his license in social work since 2012. He has never been able to get a job. Never. We have applied to hundreds of jobs. Between July and January of this past year, July of last year to January of this year, we put in, between the two of us, and mostly me, by the way, about 500 applications for social work jobs. Now, I had gotten him a little bit of work doing some home health so that he had at least a little bit of experience, but he had good interviews. I mean, people seemed impressed with him in terms of his, personality, his professional view, but he just got passed over for the job because he didn't have experience. I spent 3 weeks doing a spell for him every single day, burning a candle covered in sigils, in the fireplace. And he would come home and he would ask me, what's that? I'm like, don't ask what you don't want to know. So I was doing that working and doing road opening to remove obstacles and blocks. I did some work with Ganesh. Ganesha has helped considerably. The minute I started listening to the signs I was getting and I started doing workings that incorporated Ganesha, Lord Ganesh opened the road, and my husband got the next job he interviewed for on the spot. And he's loving it, which has been great because it's made life in the household a whole lot more pleasant. Plus, it happened right before this whole COVID-19 thing blew up. So, as he is considered essential, he's still working. And although my business has dropped a little bit, I'm still seeing some patients. I'm doing teletherapy visits and that kind of thing as much as I can. But some of our patients just don't do well in a teletherapy platform because they have severe conditions and they can't really attend. But we've managed to maintain a little, and so I'm very, very pleased. But that was an example of a working I did for someone else that was successful because I had a vested interest in it, right? My cousin was wanting to get a place of his own. When it came to that, I simply sent him the spell words. I sent him the candle. I gave him explicit directions. I sent him the herbs. I told him, this is what you need to do. You need to do it at this time. This is what you need to say. Put all of your focus on this, and it should work. Well, he is now in his own place, and so I'm assuming that the spellcraft worked. He did send me a few pictures of him doing the spell. And, the fact of the matter is, I would love for my cousin to have his own place. I know it's important to him, but I don't have as much vested interest in him finding that and getting that done as he does. So having him do the spell, I think, was by far better. And that's the way I like to do it. So I will sell people spell kits. Now, when they pay me for that, they're paying for my time in creating the words for the spell. They're paying for my supplies. And it's a business. You need to make some sort of a little profit so that you can keep buying things for other people to do things, right? So I have no problem with doing spell crafting for others and lending my energy to their spell, but I like them to be an active part of it because, again, nobody has as much vested interest in that spell working as they do. So it's important to me that that person has an active role in creating that spellcraft and in doing that. So, in terms of doing spells for others and workings for others, as Jen stated, it's something that's been done since the beginning of time when people understood that they could take within them the power of the divine and utilize that to create an outcome. And so there's just others that are better at it than others naturally or understand it better and can do it, so others will seek it out, whether that person just lacks the confidence or whatever. But I like people to understand that they are empowered in their own lives to do their own spell crafting, that this is not something that's special about me per se. It's in all of us. It's that spark of the divine within all of us that allows us to craft and create the future that we want. Now, bearing in mind some of the morality of that, and I want to touch a little bit on the morality of doing spell crafting for others, because like I said, my husband feels that everything we do is charlatanism because it's bullshit and it doesn't work. We all know that it does. So his opinion does not affect whether or not the spell is effective or what have you. Um, when I told him that he had the job because I'd been doing some workings to help him get the job, he said, if I thought you'd been doing that, if I thought your witchcraft had anything to do with my getting the job, I would quit on the spot. Well, he's still working, but I know it's in the back of his mind because it was like that candle wasn't burning for nothing, buddy. And it's funny how you got the job on the spot after so many different interviews that weren't working. So, what do you think changed, right? But at the same time, you have to be mindful that, we cannot guarantee an outcome for somebody specifically because, there's a lot of different factors that go into whether or not that's actually something that's in the divine plan. Hi, how y'all doing? Cute little dog. You're going to see him here in the background. He's a fluffer nutter. He's cute. Um, but at the same time, we believe that our spellcraft is effective. But what you have to bear in mind is what factors are working against this person what factors are not aligned with the universe's plan for this person, and are they doing something that is going to impact the free will of another. Which is why when I did my husband's spell for him to get a job, I was focusing more on his ability to open himself and get the job that he wanted. Excuse me, he really wanted that job. So opening that road, I wasn't doing anything that was, bring this person to this person. My cousin is looking for someone right now, so doing a working for him right now wouldn't be to bring a specific person to him, but rather to open the roads of communication. If he has a specific person in mind, that person might learn the value and come to him of their own free will, or to bring the right kind of person into his life so that he finds a mate that is suitable to him. So that would be kind of the morality of it. Now, have I done spells to attract specific people? Absolutely. But it's how you do the work, uh, the working, that I think fits into that morality. Because again, you have to understand that, sometimes you're dealing with other people of power as well. And so, you don't know what other factors are going to play into that might counteract that spell. So again, if you don't have your full energy on it, if it's something that's not as important to you, it's always best to have the other person take take responsibility for that. I try not to do spells that are like love spells to bring specific people, or vengeance spells against a specific person, unless it's a binding spell or a return to sender spell or like a mirror box. Those kinds of spells I will do specifically because it's not so much a you're wishing harm upon the other person, although you can do spells like that. That's what Kufa Powder's for, and things like that. But it's more to make them assess themselves, or for them to get back a taste of what they're sending forth. And to me, that's vastly different. I don't have a problem per se. Okay, here's my deal. I kind of have a problem, but I don't really have a problem with people that want to do like workings for others that are like curses or hexes. Here's my deal. I don't see the necessity in doing that, because there's so many other ways to achieve a good outcome for the person, rather than to make someone else's life miserable. Because like it or not, your spellcraft is attached to you. There is a tether of energy that is there, and unless you know how to block that, sever it, cut it, or what have you, without damaging the spell itself, it's always going to come back to you. So some aspect of what you do is going to reach back to you. It's like throwing a rock in a pond and watching the waves ripple out. Well, when they hit the shore, they come back to the source. It may be attenuated, but it's still there. And so unless you have a barrier, it's not going to do that. I just prefer to use my energies in a different way. I think that you attract what you send out to an extent. So I would rather not do a harmful working unless I really feel it's justified. I would rather just, move along and not let that person affect me. However, that's not to say that there aren't times when people's spellcraft can affect you and that you shouldn't be cautious and put up some protections. And when you're doing a working for others, you need to keep in mind that some of that may come back to you in some respect. I'm not a believer in the rule of three, that it comes back to you threefold and all that, but I do think that it can affect you mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I guess if that's the way you're looking at the threefold, it's one way of doing it. So I would just say that if you're going to do workings for others, be mindful of the kinds of working you're doing and how it can affect others that maybe are not directly involved or what have you. I'm sorry, my hair is still wet. It is an absolute hot mess. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm going to try to tie this back up. So doing workings for others is something that is individual. I prefer to make the person responsible for the working themselves. I'll provide them with the words. I'll provide them with, the instructions on what to do and with the items. But I really feel that it's something the person needs to take responsibility for, because that way too they can't come back and say, well, it didn't work. I didn't get what I paid for. No, you got what you paid for. You paid for a spell kit. You paid for the ability to do the spell yourself. you're responsible for making that outcome happen. And so I feel better about that myself. So if you guys have perspectives, I would love to hear them. Please feel free to drop your comments down below. Make sure you click that subscribe button and check out our Patreon at www.patreon.com/witches of the moon. We will be having some neat interviews coming up, including Alexander Cabot of the Cabot Kent Hermetic Temple out of Salem, Massachusetts. He's agreed to come on and talk about some of the African diaspora religions, so I'm excited about that. So please come over and check that out. Thank you so much, and blessed be.